Hello, sir.
Yesterday,
Yes, sir.
I will start immediately because time is 45 minutes.
Yes,
Otherwise,
sir.
it gets very little time to discuss everything. Yesterday, we were seeing the Rent Act, Maharashtra Rent Control Act, and almost that act was finished, but some few questions which I got in my mind. Now, this leave and license, whether an agreement executed and registered of a leave and license of a shop, can the person landlord approaches you whether you can file a application before competent authority. The period of license is 11 months and that is expired.
No, sir.
We can go. Anybody else has got different answer? Because I will be
No, no.
no. What is the reason for no?
No different answer. The answer is
Yes.
we can move section 24 application.
Okay. That is not a correct answer at all. Because if you read the section carefully, section 24, it says it applies only to residential premises.
Yes, sir.
It doesn't apply to the commercial premises or a business premises. If you have got the act, you can take out and read that section again. Anybody has got an act with him?
Yes, sir. I have that.
You read that section 24. Applicability only we will see. What is the point? Because there is a misconception among lawyers also. And they go to the competent authority or they make or register such agreements of leave and license even of a shops or commercial premises like a business premises.
Yes.
So what? Sir.
Yes. Section 24.
Read it only.
Landlord entitled to recover possession of premises given on license on expiry. Notwithstanding anything contained in the act, a licensee in possession or occupation of premises given to him on license for residence.
That is important.
Shall deliver possession of such premises to the landlord. Yes. On expiry of the period of license and on the failure of licensee to so deliver the possession of the licensed premises. A landlord shall be entitled to recover possession of such premises from a licensee on the expiry.
So the important or the underlying word is that given him for residence. And you can claim possession only of a residential premises from competent authority under that expeditious provisions under Chapter 5 of the Maharashtra Rent Control Act. You cannot ask the possession of a premises given business premises because people give the shops on a leave and license basis. I don't know they are registered also, leave and license. And most of the people, even those who take on the license, they leave the premises or they vacate the premises on expiry of the license. But suppose a case comes to you where the licensee who has got a business there, he doesn't want to leave the premises. He can definitely continue to remain in the premises and he will be protected by the Maharashtra Rent Control Act and he can be evicted only if there is one of the grounds out of 1 to 14 grounds mentioned in section 16. So he cannot be evicted from this residential premises. That has to be borne in mind. While closing, I was mentioning that there is a permission to receive the consideration. There is a permission to charge for transfer of tenancy. That landlord can take 50 lakhs of rupees for transferring the tenancy from A tenant to B tenant. Landlord can pay rupees 1 crore to the tenant for leaving or vacating the premises if it is a commercial premises. For a residential also in some part of the Bombay you can have such amount which can be paid or will be paid to the tenant. Now this is a different aspect because this is permissible. Under old law, it was not permissible. It was an offense. It was illegal, prohibited. Now it is permissible. So considering that if a landlord wants the premises to be vacated and the tenant wants some money and landlord pays, you can have a valid legal receipt. You can take the money through bank account by a bank transfer. Now this is an incidental question which you need to ponder upon. What is the taxation angle for this? Because premises were taken on a rent, maybe a deposit of rupees, say 10,000, and rent was say 250 rupees. Now while leaving the premises, tenant is getting say 70 lakhs of rupees. So what will happen about the tax? Similarly, vice versa. If a landlord receives the payment, I'm telling you because these are the questions, those are to be dealt with by a tax experts, but still you must know the law. Because most of the time agreements are done, executed, or they are performed in the lawyer's office. But at the same time, if the lawyer doesn't know or he doesn't apprise the client that you take or consult your chartered accountant or taxation expert, or he doesn't know himself what will be the tax angle, that will land a tenant or a landlord in a big trouble. So these are the various facets or facts which lawyer must know. So lawyer has to study all the laws or at least know which law is related to this. Now,
Sir, sorry to interrupt, sir. One
yes,
query.
yes,
So sometimes in respect of a commercial agreement,
yes,
what is done is the business itself is given as a conducting license.
that is true. That is permissible.
So in that case, what is my remedy for eviction?
Unless you have prohibited,
Because I am not giving the premises, but I am giving the business to conduct.
absolutely, under the Maharashtra, there is a notification issued under the old enactment, Bombay Rent Act, at least I know, that will be valid and continuing for under the new enactment also. There was a section 15 under the Bombay Rent Act, and now I think again there is a section 15 only for transfer of tenancy rights, subletting. The section is subletting or transfer of business undertaking.
Okay.
You can call it. Exception to subletting is a transfer of running business or undertaking with the goodwill. So there is an exception where it is permissible under the law. Such transfer of business. It is not the subletting or contravention of the tenancy unless of course, original agreement by which the tenant is inducted mentions a prohibitive clause, or it has got a specific clause that you will not hand over or transfer the business, or you will carry on such and such a business only. Then in that case, the tenant will be liable to be evicted, also the person to whom the business is transferred. If he continues to carry on the same business, he will not be liable to be evicted. These are the only differential points.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sections 26 under the new act. Subletting or a sub-licensing is prohibited. So this is how there is a prohibition, but at the same time there is a notification by government of Maharashtra that running business with a goodwill can be transferred. So this is about the business premises. Anything else? Anybody has got any query?
No, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Today I will be starting with a topic which may appear to be not a topic which normally studied or read by the lawyers, and that is called jurisprudence. But when we talk of jurisprudence, one has to understand that jurisprudence is defined as a principles of law, civil law. And those principles of civil law are required to be known for every or any branch of the law or practicing lawyer. I will give the examples because in case of a ownership, in case of a possession, or what is the precedent, what is the ratio, what is ratio decidendi obiter dicta. So these are judicial principles for any given civilized society, because all over the world the basis or notion about the property law may differ a little, but they have got some basic principles. For example, maybe there may be enactment incorporating basic principles. For example, if we consider the possession is utmost respected under the law. Possession is given a value akin to that of ownership, though it is not an ownership. And under section 6 of the Specific Relief Act in India, the person in possession is protected and he cannot be evicted without due process of law. So these are various dimensions of the concept. What we have to learn under the jurisprudence is the concept. What are the concepts? So these concepts I will be highlighting in a brief manner, because jurisprudence is also defined as a science of law, because we will have to deduce or deduct methodologically or by applying some rules a conclusion, and that those rules which have been decided or enacted or which have been in forming the part of the precedent or the judgments. So these are various rules which are necessary for understanding the law, because these are jurisprudential concepts are deciding about the relationships between the mankind, because situation comes before the court or before the lawyer where two persons at the same time claim the possession of a property. Then how to decide the rightful possessor or who is entitled to continue with possession or get the possession. So these are the generally recognized principles which are having the legal consequences. Based on that, the decision is taken. So principles of civil law, what among many principles, they are essentially forming the body of this jurisprudential concept. And as I told you, entire world concept of ownership is always material. Concept of possession is also important. We have to understand. It may be Europe, it may be India, or it may be America. Again, this basic concepts as to how to interpret the notion, interpret the property, possession, contract. These are important because we call it that parties are ad idem or parties having the same intentions. These are the principles or notions. In short, it is also called as a philosophy of law. Jurisprudence is also called as a philosophy of law. Now, philosophy may be analytical. You deduce from various circumstances or facts, analyze them and apply. It may be historical. That is what had happened in the past, whether the father was in possession, grandfather was in possession, enjoying the field. Or it may be ethical. Under Hindu law, there was a concept of a moral debts of a father to be paid by the son. Or now it is changed to that the son inherits a property and father had taken the loan but not paid. then son is liable to remit and pay back from the property inherited from the father. So these are all again ethical. So these various concepts like sovereignty, administration of justice, legislation, judicial precedent, customary, ownership of property, possession, contracts, torts, crimes. So these are the various parameters how the jurisprudential concept has developed. Now I was talking of possession. And I was saying that possession is most revered or most recognized or respected concept, I will say, all over the world. We respect the possession and we honor the possession. Possession is not an ownership. Ownership is a bundle of rights. Out of that, possession is one of its facets or one of its contents. So possession forms one of the contents. Now possession may be a corporeal or incorporeal. Now these are Roman terms. Corporis, incorporis. Now what is corporeal? Because we know, you know the concepts of possession in fact and possession in law. Sometimes in law you are in possession, but in factually you are not in possession. Can you give me an example?
Sir, if you are receiving rents of a property,
Yes.
if you are
Now
receiving
actually-
a rent from a property, you are not factually in possession. You are in possession in law.
You are
But
in,
if you are actually residing in occupying the property, you are in factual possession.
no, they are when you are taking the rent, the possession is with the tenant, with the occupant. So you are not in possession is a fact. Legally
Yes.
and factually. That we must accept. Now I will give you the illustration where in law you are in possession, but actually you are not in possession. These are the instances where you have got a right of way. You have got a right to take a light. In effect, you are not in possession of that land through which the road is passing, through which you are going to your land. That road is not in your possession, but you have got a right to use it. Why? Because you are owner of the land at the backside. So this is incorporeal, or this is a right which is in law there, but in fact it is not there. Now there are, in fact, sometimes I have got my book in my possession, but if I sleep or I go out of the town, I continue to possess my book, which is in my possession, was my possession in my house. Now there the concept is to exclude others from interfering with it, prohibit others from taking. So my book is in my possession. If I park a car outside my house, key is with me, I am not actually sitting in the car. Yes, go ahead.
One query is if a bank has a charge on my property,
Yes,
or bank has the title of my property,
yes.
then how will this illustration, possession in law and possession in fact, apply to this?
Correct. If the bank has given you a loan and if the property is still in possession of yours, bank has got a charge. Actual and factual possession is with you. Again, maybe in some cases you are also owner, but ownership is burdened with a mortgage or with a loan, with a debt. So actually you are in possession. But if a mortgagor has given the possession, to the mortgagee, then he is not in actual possession also. His possession may be treated as a possession in law because he is owner. 90% become the cases where ownership is along with the possession, or possession follows the ownership. If you are an owner, you are entitled for possession. That is the principle. But if you are in possession, you are not entitled for ownership. You cannot claim ownership. Only one exception to this rule is there, that you can also claim ownership by prescription, by passage of time. So possession will ripen into or become the ownership when you have got the possession uninterrupted as of right, known to the original owner for continuous period of say 12 years. So then by prescription you become the owner when initially you were only in physical possession. So physical possession, the very known and illustrated cases are there. If a person enters a property legally and subsequently he refuses to leave, he is in possession of the property, but he now subsequently says that I will not be leaving the property. His status is what? His status will become that of a trespasser. He enters legally, and after the permission has expired, or the owner says that I want his property back, he becomes a trespasser. Now under the law, the trespasser's possession, whether the owner can evict him forcibly, whether the owner can go and throw away his goods. No. Answer is no. Owner has to take resort to the procedure established by law. He will have to go to the court and seek a possession through the court. So possessor may be a trespasser, but still he is entitled to protect his possession, and his possession is good against the entire world except the person who is owner. And again the owner has got limitations, that he cannot take the possession forcibly. He has to go to the court and obtain the possession. So even a trespasser's possession is protected under our law and the prescriptive right. Now this concept of prescription is not now much approved by the court. By recent judgments, the court have opined that it needs to be modified and changed, because by prescription the people continue to trespass upon others' property, remain there, especially government properties, and claim the possession. Now I will just give some concepts. I have told you about the corporeal possession, that is of a possession of a material object. Incorporeal is other than material object. Now the person who gets a possession and it is not known how he got the possession, whether such a person is entitled to defend his possession, because entering in upon the property not illegal or not legal, because no permission obtained from the owner. It was a vacant land. It was unattended land. The owner was not near the property or missing from the property. Now whether this person can defend the possession, claim benefits from and out of the possession, because you must have learnt or must have read under land acquisition, occupant is also given a notice. And occupant is also given a compensation depending upon the right established by occupant or the FSI. So what happens in such a scenario where the antecedents of this person in possession are not known? In that case, again the same principle will apply. The owner can claim the possession because ownership is not with that person, that is certain. As I told you from some time back, that possession follows the ownership. A person who is the owner is entitled to possess the property unless that person establishes the prescriptive right. The burden is heavy upon that person to establish that he was in possession as of right for a period more than 12 years, uninterrupted, and his possession was known to the owner. Illegal possession was known to the owner, and owner did not take action. If this one exception is excluded and he cannot come out with any better title, then he will have to surrender and deliver the possession of the property to the owner. So important is animus, intention, animus possessiondi. Now this animus possessiondi is related to exclusion of others from interfering or claiming possession. Only one exception is there in case of easementary rights. The right is there, but exclusion is not there. Others can use the same road, same way or light. Like me, there may be two buildings, but I am using the light through my window. Like that, another building which is also in touching that property may use the light. So here there is no such thing. Now a tenant or a borrower may have a possession not real than owner himself. Because as your illustration has been related to tenancy, now his possession as against the whole world, if somebody trespasses, he can take action. So his possession is as if he is an owner. Only exception is that when the owner comes and owners claim possession, then in that case, the possession of the tenant is subservient to that of the possession of the owner or the title of the owner. Now this animus possessiondi may not be a specific, it may be a general. I told you, me illustration deto, you will understand what is general. Me नेट लेक मध्ये टाकले आणि माझ्या नेट मध्ये माझी अपेक्षा काही फिश यावेत. मला माहित नाही की किती फिश येणार आहेत आणि किती फिश आतापर्यंत आलेत. मी पोझिशन मध्ये फिश आहे किंवा नाही किंवा किती फिश आहे हे मला माहित नाही. पण स्टिल when I take out the net, the fish which come on the net, they are all in my possession. This is a general. So this how my possession may not be known to me with certainty of those fishes, but still in a general my possession is there of all the fish which are entering my net. So this is how, this is a general claim. Now some English cases are inevitable to be mentioned. मागे मला वाटतं पहिल्या लेक्चर मध्ये या केसेस मी सांगितलं असतील का माहित नाही. कपाट विकलं, मेरी वर्सेस ग्रीन ची केस आहे ही, आणि कपाटामध्ये एक चोर कप्प्यामध्ये डायमंडचा हार निघाला. ज्यांनी कपाट घेतलं त्यांनी ते उघडताना रिपेअर करताना त्याला तो चोर कप्पा सापडला आणि त्याचा तो पुढे डायमंडचा हार गेला. तो डायमंडचा हार त्यांनी बाजारात विकला. Whether I am entitled to sue him for that necklace because I had sold him cupboard. I had given a possession of cupboard only. Price was fixed of a cupboard. So what happens about that diamond necklace? Whether I am entitled to sue him or whether he can say that once you have given me in possession of the entire cupboard, you have no right to claim anything. The answer is that I had given possession of the cupboard only, without any diamonds or without any necklace. So therefore he was not entitled. Once he came to know that there is a diamond necklace, then he got a possession of diamond necklace. That possession of a diamond necklace was against the Vishesh or against the contract by which that cupboard was sold. And if he misappropriates that, then he commits a criminal offense. He is guilty of an offense because it was never sold to him or intended to be sold to him. In a second case, Cartwright versus Green, कार्पेंटरला कबर्ड रिपेअर करायला दिला आणि ते कबर्ड रिपेअर करताना कार्पेंटरला एका ड्रॉवर मध्ये समजा पैसे मिळाले, एक बंडल नोटाचं तसंच असलेलं त्याला मिळालं. त्याला मिळालं त्यांनी ताब्यात घेतलं आणि त्या पैशाचा उपयोग स्वतःसाठी केला. The similar principle will apply. Possession was not given. Possession was given only to repair it and not of any of the articles to be taken or misappropriated. So he will be guilty for misappropriation of my money. So this is the second case. And thirdly, R versus Hudson. या केस मध्ये एका कैद्यानी आपल्या सहकायद्याला जो सुटणार होता त्याला एक पत्र दिलं, बंद पाकिट, आणि त्या सहकायद्यानी ते बंद पाकिट स्वतःकडे ठेवलं आणि ज्याला द्यायचं होतं त्याच्याकडे देताना त्याच्या लक्षात आलं की याच्यात एक चेक आहे, बेरर. त्यांनी तो चेक काढला, सही केलेला आणि चेक वटवून पैसे घेतले. Again, in this case also, the possession was not to be retained by him. There was no animus possessiondi, and therefore he is guilty of misappropriation of my money. So, the possession of the amount or a check was never intended to pass to the other co-prisoner. So, therefore, he will be guilty for the misappropriating the same. Now, we will go to another concept, another development in this concept. Finder keeper हे principle, I think under Sale of Goods Act मध्ये किंवा आहे. Finder will keep the goods. Now, if a person enters a shop and by mistake he drops his wallet on the floor, the shopkeeper noticed it and takes the wallet in his custody. Now what happens to my claim? If that wallet is found by another customer, whether I am entitled to claim anything against one, because customers may be many, shopkeeper, or in earlier first case against shopkeeper who has taken my wallet. In first case, the answer is simple. I am entitled to get back my wallet and the money therein. In the second case, the answer will be little more difficult. If another customer has taken, who entered the same shop or same premises, then whether the shopkeeper is entitled. Here again that animus will have to be seen. What was the animus? Huh? Yes. What is the answer? Answer is that the person is entitled to claim unless that premises which is used by all the customers is the premises outside the counter. If it is inside the shop, the loss of wallet is there, then the person in possession of that premises is responsible for that article because it was never intended to pass. He will have to find a person who took the wallet. The responsibility is cast upon that person. Now again, another concept is of a concurrent possession or a joint possession. Now, concurrent possession कसा असेल? Can you illustrate? एकाच प्रॉपर्टीचं दोन लोकांकडे पोझिशन आहे. They both claim to be in possession. How is it possible and how to resolve it?
Sir, vested interest kiwa charge on property, will this be related to concurrent possession?
Vested interest मध्ये there is always a vesting, and vesting once takes place it is complete. So you cannot have another person in possession of the property already vested. You are talking of a vesting of a property in case of a sale in auction or in sale by the bank. But there the tenants who are in possession will be a tenants again. There can't be two possessions. There can be a two or more person in possession. Again we go to the illustration of a right of way. The road leading to my property can be possessed by two persons. One by me, one by other person who is using, or any other owner of the plot behind me. So it will be possessed by two persons at one and the same time. Corporeal and incorporeal ha farak kadla ki how this problem can be solved. Because I have told you corporeal is material object and incorporeal is not material object. So it can be, the corpus may be a changed version, and other than material object, म्हणजे way over to another man's land, access of light from windows, office of profit. So these are the illustrations where incorporeal right and corporeal right both can have a possession of the same property. Now, how the possession is acquired? One is by taking, another is by delivery, and third instance is of course by trespassing and prescription. That is a separate. Now, under the tenancy law or a rent act, the change of ownership requires attonement, concept of attonement. Now this attonement is a constructive possession. That is, possession is